Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great, as I always say. And in this video, I got a lot of stories from the deep woods, or I think most of them are from the deep woods anyways. So, as always, pull up a stump, and let's jump into it. Thank you for watching. So English is not my first language, and I'm not from America, but here's my story. I was hanging out with my childhood friends, a girl and a boy, in the calm local woods back when I was 17. I took my camera with me to take pictures of the clear night sky, the comfy fire, and just everything we were doing. We arrived at day. When we set up our tents, we secured the fireplace and all that stuff. The sun began to set, and we still didn't have enough wood. I stayed at our campsite to prepare food, while the other two went out collecting wood nearby. The girl comes back without wood. She gives me a weird stare, then looks at the camera. She takes it and goes away. I shrug it off, 'cause she can do odd things sometimes. So 20 minutes later, my friends return, both of them with enough wood for the fire. My guy friend starts making the fire. The girl turns to me and gives me back my camera and says, "I found it in the brushwood." I say to her, "But you took it from me earlier." We all laugh it off, but she raises an eyebrow when the guy mentions, "What are you talking about? She was with me the entire time." I check their faces to see if they're serious. They look concerned. The guy friend suggests that we check the camera. We go through the pictures. There's blurred, random pictures of trees and the ground. Then there's another pic that shows my friends far away on the edge looking for firewood. Meanwhile, the girl starts to panic. My hair stands on end when I realize that they're both in the picture. The girl jumps when the next pictures come across and they get more clear. It's her looking at the camera with a death stare and this fake, emotionless smile. She takes the camera from me and throws it in the fire and just is crying the entire time. And we decide not to stay the night and just get out of there. She's been in therapy for years. My guy friend and myself are also considering taking it. I still have no clue what the hell happened, but maybe therapy will help. So this happened in the Sipsey Wilderness in Alabama. I had a late start that day, but I had planned on a short day. The sun was setting, close to where I planned on camping. So I stop off the trail and I'm taking a leak. There's a stream behind me, maybe 30 feet back. In front of me is a mega dense, overgrown forest, backed by a cliff wall, maybe 100 feet away or so. I hear somebody walking down the trail. I glance, but I don't see anybody. But then, I hear him say, "Excuse me," in a tone that you'd use if you wanted to walk past somebody. He was right behind me, clear as day, though I didn't hear him walk up. I turn around and all I say is, "Dude," as in, "Dude, I'm trying to pee, why are you standing behind me?" And there's no one there. Yeah, it's the typical, "and I turned around and no one was there" story, but there was something about it that just made me feel dread. Like it was the most horrifying thing that's ever happened to me. It was 9 years ago, when I was 31. I first started camping when I was 3 months old, backpacking by the time I was 8. So this wasn't a case of an inexperienced person hearing a sound and being freaked out because they're in an unfamiliar environment. And it wasn't just a sound. It was a man speaking to me, just a foot behind me, too close while I'm trying to pee. It would be impossible for someone to have somehow been playing a prank by yelling from the bushes or something. There was nowhere to hide, and I could hear how close he was. So I planned on about an 8-mile hike, and it was timed pretty well. I would have arrived at camp probably with very little sunlight left. Instead, I hiked straight back to my car without stopping in the dark. I used a headlamp, so it's not like I was going by moonlight. A portion of that is a 30-foot long cave with no bypass that you have to go through sideways without your pack. It's just where a giant boulder and I guess a small landslide fell into another boulder. Pretty neat under normal circumstances, but terrifying during this. I remember constantly feeling like something was right behind me, that something was about to grab my pack or be waiting for me on the other side, that something was going to happen. When I made it past the cave and was nearing my car, all I could think of was that I was being followed, or I'd have a flat tire or something, or for some reason the car wouldn't start. Like I'd be delayed even further from getting away from here as fast as I could. So I got in my car and I just peeled out. I probably checked the back seat a dozen times before driving into town. I got a room in a Motel 6 and didn't sleep. I just watched old comedy shows and stayed away from the window. And this was a weekday, and it was a little cold for Alabama. The place can see lots of use on the weekends, but on the weekdays in the colder weather there's not really anybody. Plus, I was pretty far from the nearest trailhead, and it was nearly dark. Ignoring the fact that someone spoke to me from about a foot behind me, the landscape alone made it impossible for someone to hide or something. I still get the heebie-jeebies whenever I think about it. I haven't gone back to that area, but I still go camping. So this happened when I was 14, and I was living in Wisconsin. I have friends that like to go around and explore a lot, exploring the woods, the general area of where we live, and everything like that. Occasionally, I'll go out with them, but I'm more of an indoor person for reasons that you'll see later. So my friends find a base/area past the railroad tracks. They ask me if I want to come along. It's summer in Wisconsin, so it's pretty mild, save for the mosquitoes. To get to the place, you have to go on an old abandoned railroad track. We walk for what seems like 2 hours or so, I believe. We get there, and it's pretty nice. There's supplies for a building and everything like that. My friends have gone there a few times before and brought things with them. They had gotten a few things done as well, like places to sit out of old fallen down trees. They hauled them together and they secured them with rope and everything that you can think of like that'd be for a fire pit. We talk for a while. There's a small stream nearby, so one of my friends goes swimming. And we sit out there for a long time. I help build stuff, and we plan other ideas for the spot. It's getting to be around 7 to 8, I think, and I say we should build a fire before it gets dark. My friends who pretty much started the spot say we can't, and I say, oh, why not? They say it's hunting grounds. We can't. Besides, we should leave soon. We wander around for a while, just looking and charting the area further. I see a hunting stand that's secured to a tree, and I think, oh cool, so I climb up into it. It's like past 9 now, so it's getting fairly dark. We're looking all around, and there's this open field where the game would usually be. I think. I don't hunt. So I chill up there, and I look around some more, and I look down at my friends and doing the, the teenager thing, or look how high up I am, stuff like that. Just being stupid. But then, something catches my eye. It's way in the field, something that looks like it's white ash in color, and there's something that runs mid-center through its body. I think it's probably a wolf or a coyote or something. But then it stops, and I'm thinking, wait, it looks weird. Then it stands upright. It looks at a tree like it's scanning. Reminder that I'm up in a hunting stand. It looks directly at me. I tactically nope down and say that we need to go immediately. They look confused. They blow it off as me being just a scaredy cat. One friend comes in and says that we should go before it gets around into the AMs. We reach the consensus and make the way back to the home base, which is close to the entrance of the place. My friend has to go to the bathroom. We wait for him. I'm still nervous, and I'm looking around, and every little thing is creeping me out. My friend comes back in less than 10 seconds into walking off in the woods. He's visibly scared. He said he saw this white thing walking upright. That's when I think they'd actually believe me if he backed up my story. My friend says that we need to keep moving. I explain what I saw to my friends. The guy who wants to go to the bathroom backs me up and says that we should really get the hell out of here. And on the way back, we would see glimpses of something stalking us in the trees. The same white figure. I don't know what it was, but I prefer to stay inside now. So we've never spoken about this particular event, not even among ourselves after it happened. It was my friends, Ben and Ryan and me, going camping into the woods like we used to do when we get a weekend off, or at least used to before this. In general, we tried to go to new places. There was this one forest in particular, situated about 2 hours away from our city, that we've been told about. We had been putting it off for a while because it was said to be dangerous, packed with wild animals that would attack campers pretty often. Ben, in his usual part of trying to be a badass, said that he would take his shotgun and that we'd be safe. Ryan was a bit of a wimp, but he agreed. So, we drove there as soon as we had a free weekend. We got there by mid-afternoon or so. After we set up our camp and the night was beginning to set in, we decided to go for a walk. We secured our stuff. Ben took his shotgun in case any animals approached us, and we started following a small path that got deeper into the woods. Walks in the dark like these used to always relax me, but this time I was starting to feel uneasy. Something felt weird, like a sense of foreboding. After about half an hour of walking, we started to hear noises. These noises were getting closer to us. They sounded like footsteps of several big creatures closing in on us. But to this day, I swear I could also hear soft whispers beneath the noises. I was feeling like a cornered animal. In total panic, we began running back through the path that we had come from. During this, I somehow lost Ben and Ryan. I couldn't even see their flashlights in the distance, but I kept on running, scared shitless. At some point, I ran past an old house, which seemed to have suffered a fire. The windows were boarded up, but the door seemed half open. Suddenly, I heard something coming from the inside. Terrified at first, I froze there, but then I realized that it was actually Ryan calling for me to come inside. I was a little doubtful at first for some reason, but as soon as I heard the animal sounds coming closer to me, I bolted into the house and closed the door. I lifted my flashlight to look around, and there was Ryan. I pointed the light to his eyes, but he didn't seem to react to it much. In fact, he seemed oddly calm, which was odd for him, especially in this circumstance. He said, "Let's stay here for now," in a neutral tone of voice. "Those things out there could be dangerous." Now, I was worried about Ben, but I remembered that, worst case scenario, he had his shotgun ready if anything attacked him. I took a deep breath and started looking around the room. There were a few chairs that were lying on the floor. They looked charred. In one corner of the room, there was a pile of sticks with a bunch of stones scattered around them. All of a sudden, 2 bangs. Ben's shotgun had gone off twice. I stood there, paralyzed, as every other sound in the forest stopped. I glanced briefly at Ryan, and he was just staring at me, completely quiet. I was about to say something when someone started banging on the door. Ryan immediately grabbed my shoulder and said, "Don't open the door. It could be one of those things." I started walking toward the door, but he insisted, "Don't do it. They're going to kill us." This really unsettled me, but I was afraid it could be Ben, who had just shot one of the wild animals and was probably looking for shelter. I grabbed onto the metal door handle, took a deep breath, and as Ryan was still talking behind me, I opened the door. A cold chill ran down my spine. Standing there in front of me was Ryan. It didn't sink in at first. He was saying, "Hey, did you hear Ben's gun go off too? I think we need to find him and just get the hell out of here." I babbled something incomprehensible and slowly turned around, pointing my flashlight all over the room. I was alone. When the light reached the corner of the room, I realized that what I had been looking at earlier was a pile of bones, and around them, forming a circle, were a bunch of skulls. They looked like human skulls too, but I didn't stick around enough to really examine them. We ran off as fast as we could. We found Ben near the campsite. When he saw us, he became pale and didn't say a word. We got on my truck and drove the hell away from there, leaving everything behind. On the way back, there was a long silence. I asked Ben what he had shot at. He said, "Some things came from the trees and they attacked me. They came up from behind and I shot them down." And I said, "Ben, what were they?" And he said, "It was you guys. I thought I killed both of you back there." After that, nobody spoke a word for the rest of the trip. After we got home, Ben just stopped talking to us, and he moved away. We never saw Ben again. So this happened a few years ago in Groton, Vermont, a place that me and my friend go to almost every other weekend when we can help it for the last 12 years. And in Groton, my friend's uncle owns about 140 acres of land. We go camping there all the time. We used to go with him, but since now we have gotten older, it's just been us for quite a long time. One of the times, we actually have a group of friends go. It's unusual because they're not really into camping or doing stuff in the woods, but it was still cool to chill with them all out there. They weren't prepared for how much in the woods we actually were. When his uncle bought the land, there was a busted up AF camper that was parked there, and we would shoot at it just for lulz. It was actually pretty useful though, because me and my friend, who would go up a lot, we would cut up some extra firewood and just leave it in the trailer, so we'd have dry wood for winter trips. The first night was great. It was super fun. I passed out not long after we got there, since we got everything set up around 1 a.m. and settled in around then. The next morning, we do our hikes and stuff, and we're just loving life. Then, we get back, and I'm just getting the fire going when I hear, "Guys, look at this. What the F?" We rush over, and in the camper, right in the doorway, is a cow's head. It couldn't have been more than a few days old, barely, if at all, decomposed. There are farms everywhere in Vermont, but the nearest farm from where we were was easily a 30-minute drive. We are far in the woods here. These woods are thick. So we grab our guns and just start to patrol the area a bit. Only me and my main friend have any guns. The others are basically like dogs hiding between our legs. Everyone is dead silent for a long time. We're all just listening. I convince everyone that however it got there, the person was gone. There was no body, just the head. Me and my main friend go for a walk down this usual pathway, and we follow it for about 5 miles. And when you do so, you end up at this huge clearing. It's one of those clearings in the woods where all the power lines go through. So we keep on walking, about 15 minutes later down the path, a path that again, we know very well by now. We see this big-ass tree, and there's stones implanted in the ground like steps. We look at each other like, what the hell are these? Because we just took this same trail last month because deer are easy to find at night in that clearing. We follow the path, and it circles around the tree, and we see a chair on the back side of it. I stare at it for a while. The chair doesn't look unusual, but the stones, they're put in the ground, and it looks like someone, for some reason, was worshipping whatever was in this chair. I notice that it's getting to be that blue hour right before the sky turns black. My friend says that he has a sudden pit in his stomach. I'm not sold on leaving this spot yet though, which just shows how stupid I was. It gets dark really quick when you're that deep in the woods. There's no light at all. We hear a group back at camp, and they're screaming like bloody murder. And then we realize, oh, that's us, that's our group. And we start booking it back down the trail, kicking ourselves for not staying with them and looking around instead. We get back to camp with guns up, looking around, calling our friends' names. All of them are around the camper, a little out of our sight, still looking ahead. They get spooked as all hell because it looks like we were getting ready to shoot them. We ask if they're all right. We heard them scream. The look of dread on their faces, I'll never forget. Pale and gaunt. None of them screamed. They didn't even hear them. Me and my main friend just heard what sounded like a group of people getting murdered. Finally, my main friend goes up to his uncle's cabin, which is a good 80 acres away, and tells him what happened. So his uncle comes back to the campsite, and he sees the head. He looks at us, and says that he's not screwing around or playing games, and we could get arrested for doing sick shit like this, and that he would call the cops on us himself if we did it. He realizes that, instantly, we aren't lying, and we didn't do it. The police get called. They see the head, they see the chair, but they're not really interested in it. I tell them about the screams, but they barely pay attention, and they were only concerned with the cow's head. They tell us to just go home and forget about this, like home, 2.5 hours away. And this cut, it was clean. I mean, someone cut this thing's head off, and they did it good. I hunt, not for sport, really, or just to be a dickhead. I hunt for food. But when me and my friend and his uncle go, we save the meat, and his uncle even tans the hide, and we make stuff with it. This was skillfully cut off the thing's body, and there was no blood to be found, or the body. We tell the cops we are too far, and we aren't packing up to go home right now. He tells us that we better leave, with our shit or without our shit, just leave. My friend's uncle gets all WTF and sticks up for us. The cop whispers something in his ear, and they both look at us. His uncle tells us to go home. Him and the cop walk away, and they're still talking. We overhear the word cult mentioned. But other than that, we're really not wanting to leave right now, but we do because we don't want any more trouble than it's worth. My friend calls his uncle that night when we are home to tell him that we're home okay. There's no answer, and it's really late at night, so we think maybe he's sleeping. He calls back almost every day for the next few weeks, and there's no answer. His uncle has literally avoided him from that day on as much as possible. He acts like he doesn't even exist at this point. And there was even a time when they were at like a family barbecue, and he was usually so happy and jokey. But now, again, he just pretends that he doesn't exist, doesn't associate with them, and just kind of looks sad off by himself. I don't know what the hell was going on in those woods that night. I think about it all the time, and I'll never forget it. So this story was sent in to me anonymously, and I hope I can do your story justice for you. So I want to tell you about the strange encounter me and my daughter had last summer. This took place in the Metro Detroit area. My daughter, 12, and I have a tradition of going on a nightly walk, weather permitting, so that we can have much needed one-on-one time, and we can just talk, mother to daughter. It's a tradition that we both hold very close to our hearts. Where we live is an urban area, but our neighborhood is next to a protected wetland area, and there's a lot of woods. The route that we take is a square, and when we go down the street next to us, we are facing a field that's about 2 football fields in length and is separated from the wetlands by a chain-link fence. This is very important later. During the summer, we are constantly seeing deer in our front yard and in the field and even walking down the street. We also see coyotes and other various wildlife just walking about around our neighborhood, and we own 3 cats. Well, we had been talking, my daughter and I, the night before on our walk about how we hadn't seen any wildlife in a few days and how strange that was. And my daughter mentioned how our 3 cats had been not wanting to go out into the yard and had been acting really nervous and anxious the past few days as well. And I thought, that's really odd, but I didn't think about it much after that. Well, the next night, it's around dusk, and my daughter and I head out for our walk. As we were walking, I'm feeling very off. It's hard to explain the feeling, but it just felt wrong and uncomfortable. But I figure it's not long of a walk, and we will be okay. I'm probably just being a weirdo. We turn the corner in the street next to ours, and my daughter says, "Mom, why is it so quiet?" And I stopped and listened. She was right. There were no insects, no birds rustling in the trees, no squirrels chittering, and absolutely nothing you could hear. You could hear a pin drop. It was like, oh shit, something is definitely not right, and I need to get my kid home now before I find out how not right it is. I say, listen, we need to pick up the pace, I really need to use the bathroom. I didn't want to scare her, and she says, okay Mom, and she grabs my hand, and we start walking a lot quicker than the leisurely stroll we usually have going on. We are at the end of the street, and I look out into the field, and that's when I saw it. It was a whitish gray creature that was hunched over and running on all fours, but you could tell by its shape that it wasn't made to always be on all fours, if that makes sense. It had no hair or fur at all. It was all skin. Shark skin is how I would describe it. Its head was bulbous and round. It was on all fours, and it was roughly 4 feet tall, so, standing upright, it had to be a good 7 to 8 feet tall. I hear my daughter say, Mom, and I shush her because I do not want to bring any attention to us at all. And we stood there, and I watched it run the entire length of the field in 3 to 4 seconds flat. This thing was fast. So fast I've never seen anything like it before. And it leapt over the fence into the wetlands without even pausing. I said run to my daughter because my only thought was to get her home and tell her if it comes after us, you keep running no matter what happens. Just keep running. Thank God that didn't happen, but I didn't want that thing anywhere near her. So we get home, and before she says anything to me, I say, "What did you see?" And she describes it exactly how I saw it. And I say I saw it too. And she said, "Mom, what was that?" And I said, "Honey, I don't know." So we started Googling and researching, and the closest thing we saw that matched up with what we saw was called a crawler. What's interesting is probably a month after our encounter, I was on Facebook and I was in a local Michigan group, and there was a woman in a town that's probably 50 miles away from me, had almost the exact experience my daughter and I did. I wound up DMing her and telling her about our experience. I don't know if it was the same or exact one or a different one, but I think Metro Detroit has a crawler problem. I know this may not sound all that scary, but it was. It was absolutely terrifying, and I completely understand why people who don't take pictures of their encounters have that habit, because you were truly so shocked that you were seeing something that's not supposed to exist, and your mind goes blank. My phone was literally in my hand, and I didn't even think to take a picture once. I didn't even feel the phone in my hand in that moment. It's like your mind blanks and you go numb. I hope to never experience anything like that again. So I hope I could do your story justice. And we also had a nice discussion afterwards through email. And after this, what we talked about was sometimes after you have like a paranormal experience with a cryptid, or if you grew up in a haunted house or just things like that, that sometimes it seems that animals will come up to you, or animals seem to have a certain connection. I don't know, I'm describing it really badly, but it's like we talked about, if maybe having those experiences makes you open to more, and some animals recognize this, and that's like they trust you more. She had one example of a deer walking down her street, and she was able to pet it and stuff, which I live out in the sticks as well, not like an urban area. I just live in the woods, and all the time I have animals in my backyard doing whatever, and sometimes I can go right up to them. A lot of times I can go right up to them and just pet them. And obviously animals are scared of people. They don't want anything to do with people usually. So we were wondering if maybe there's like a connection between being open to the paranormal and being able to have a better connection with nature and animals. I don't know. What do you guys think? Basically, I was going to ask if you guys have anything like that down in the comments, where you can just walk up to a wild animal and it's just chill with you. And if you've had paranormal experiences, because I don't know if they could be related, like in the vibe you give off or what, but it's just a weird thought. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And also, if you're listening to me narrate your story, then just know that you didn't take up too much of my time. We were having a conversation. I just have a lot going on in life, so it's more that I'm quite busy a lot of the time. But with that being said, remember, if you have a story of your own, you can send it to the email in the description below. So, what'd you think of those stories? Let me know which one was your favorite one down in the comments. Do you have your own story? I have an email in the description below where you can send them if you want to. I also have a Patreon and a PayPal there too if you want to donate to the channel. Also, some people have emailed me or commented saying that they would like to hear about other creepy stuff that I found that's not necessarily just stories. So, after the stories in a video, if you'd like to hear me talk about other creepy stuff or talk about a certain creepy phenomenon that goes on and all that stuff outside of just a specific story, then let me know down in the comments, because I'm curious about if more people want that or if it's just like a select few. And if yous all do, then every now and then I probably will spend a few minutes at the end of a video, never in the video, but at the end of a video, talking about just creepy stuff that I found or topics that are cool and all that. If that's something that you like, then definitely let me know. I'm open to all kinds of stuff. So, with all that being said, thank you for pulling up a stump, and thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.